started with the public meeting.
I think we're recording.
Okay, perfect. All right, good evening, everybody. This is the public meeting for the water main replacement project in the area of Broadway Boulevard to Holmes Road, West 7th Street to West 18th Street. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time.
We're turning at Main, now we're going to turn Broadway.
Okay, next slide, Davis. Just a couple of housekeeping items to go over before we get started. We are doing this meeting virtually and we are recording this meeting. So after the public meeting ends, we will post the recording on our KC Water website for viewing. If anybody has any additional questions or needs to revisit anything, or if any neighbors or other customers have missed tonight's public meeting, it'll be on the website for review. Since this is a virtual meeting and we are all online, please, there's a raise your hand feature. Please feel free to use that if you have any questions at any time during this presentation. If you're on a phone and you can't use the raise your hand feature, just feel free to interrupt us at any time and we'll take your questions. At the end of the presentation, if you still have questions and didn't get your questions asked, we will have a question slide and we'll take additional questions at that point. Additionally, we'll leave the contact information for our project manager, Davis, up at the end of the presentation. And please feel free to contact him at any time during or after this presentation with any specific questions that you have. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, Mel, so we're getting a little background noise. So I muted a couple people on the phone. So I think it's *6 to unmute if you have questions. So.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jeff. And we would ask if you're not speaking to please keep yourself muted so we don't get the background noise. Okay. Just a quick introduction of our project team. Here on the call tonight, we do have Matt Bond, not listed on the slide, but he is our Deputy Director for Water Services here at KC Water. We also have Jeff Martin, our Chief Engineering Officer. Myself, Melanie Jollett, I'm the Water Distribution Division Head. We also have Davis McDonald Macklin, he's our project manager, and we have Sean Allen, he will be our resident inspector for KC Water. Additionally, we have Morgan Salisbury, and he's from Kissick Construction. We also have Spencer Moore, also from Kissick Construction, and they'll be our contractor on this project. Okay, next slide. To kick us off, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Martin, and he's going to give us a quick background on KC Water and water services and the utilities that we offer and provide.
Thanks, Melanie, and thanks everybody for joining us here tonight. So we do like to take just a minute to kind of review the fact that here at KC Water, we actually are 3 utilities in one. So a lot of people think of KC Water as just your water utility provider. So we also not only just provide the water, but also are your wastewater utility provider, and we provide the stormwater management for the city as well. So next slide. So in order to actually to provide all those services takes a lot of assets, a lot of staff. So here for the water utility side, we have 1 water treatment plant that serves the city and all of our customers. We have about 18 pump stations to move that water around through over 2,800 miles of water main. So that's really what this project here tonight that we're talking about is, replacing the water mains for that distribution system. And then also another 35,000 valves and 23,000 fire hydrants to really support all that infrastructure. On the wastewater side, we actually have 6 wastewater treatment plants, 3 along the Missouri River, and then 3 along the northern city limits that serve the entire KC Water area. And then another 39 pump stations, 2,800 miles of sewer mains, and then 67,000 manholes spread throughout the region that that allow us to access those sewer mains to clean them and keep them up. And then the third utility, the stormwater utility, which is kind of the most forgotten about one, it seems like. So another 630 miles of stormwater pipe running throughout the city, and 53,000 inlets along the streets and curbs to collect that water. And what a lot of people don't also realize, we have about 13.5 miles of levees along the rivers and the smaller rivers that run throughout the city to keep the flood prone areas dry. So So a lot of assets go into providing the utilities for all our customers there. So the next slide, really all three of these tie back to our one water source, which is the Missouri River. So not only do we pull our drinking water from here to treat that we distribute out to everybody, but it's where all the stormwater flows eventually end up, as well as the discharges from our wastewater treatment plants after the water's been treated, cleaned up, and is ready to go back into the system. So it's really important that we maintain that water system so it's usable, keep it clean, keep it viable for the future to keep providing water not only to Kansas City, but throughout the region. So and with that, I'll turn it back over to Melanie to talk about our water main replacement program.
Thanks, Jeff. So just a quick background on our water main replacement program. As mentioned, this is the public meeting for water main replacement project. And Kansas City Water, our distribution system includes about 2,800 miles of water main. Many of our mains date back to the 1800s. So we do have a challenge with some aging infrastructure where we do see some significant main breaks and other operational and maintenance challenges on our infrastructure. This is a nationwide challenge. It's not unique to Kansas City, and it's not unique to our utility. But what we have done is about 8 years ago, we developed this water main replacement program. And the intent of this program is to replace 1% of our infrastructure every year. And this equates to about 28 miles every year of water distribution piping that gets replaced. As I mentioned, we are in our 8th year, and to date, we've replaced more than 200 miles of distribution main. So we have seen some significant progress within this program. Next slide, Davis. So how do we choose which pipes and which segments get replaced each year? So what we've done, Kansas City Water, we have recently purchased a new software, and it's called Info Asset Planner. And this software really works with our asset management system, and it's able to help us identify consequence and likelihood of failure of our existing infrastructure and help to develop and to calculate risk on each pipe within our distribution system. So we have multiple different likelihood and consequence of failure criteria. We evaluate those and we assign a risk score to every pipe. We pick the top 28 miles of riskiest pipe every year, and we develop into projects the top 28 miles of pipe to be replaced. So all of the projects are designed to replace the aging infrastructure with new zinc-coated ductile iron water mains. These water mains are wrapped in a polyethylene sleeve. And what this does is it really gives us about 100-year design life on the new infrastructure, and it really significantly reduces the operation and maintenance costs on these water mains, because we should have less breaks and less interruptions to service. Additionally, what these new pipes are providing is we do see an increase in capacity and an increase in fire protection. What happens a lot of times with some of our old smaller diameter cast iron pipes and older pipes is we do see some tuberculation or some buildup with deposits within the pipe, which kind of reduces the inside diameter. So these new pipes really, they have the full diameter of the size that we put in, and so it really does improve fire protection throughout the city to our customers. Next slide, Davis. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to our project manager, Davis, and I'm going to let him talk about some specifics to this project specifically. You are muted, Davis.
There we go. So good evening, everybody. My name is Davis. I'm the project manager here at KC Water for this water main replacement project that we're going over this evening. We're calling it Broadway Boulevard to Holmes, West 17th Street to 18th Street. But as you can see, it's kind of it's made up of multiple segments. There's about 10 segments here, and most of them are about 400 feet. There's some where we're replacing two mains that are in the same street. So the total linear footage for the project is about 5,000 feet. So we're going to be replacing Mains all the way from 4 inches in diameter all the way up to 30 inches in diameter. And some of those mains are going to be upsized drastically. Others are just going to be replaced with the same diameter that's currently existing. So, for instance, this segment here along 7th Street, it's about 400 linear feet. We're going to be replacing that with that existing 12-inch cast iron water main with 12-inch ductile iron pipe. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to go over any specific segments. If, say, you live off of one of these segments, or if you have a business off of one of these segments, we can always go over that later. But pretty excited for the project, and I'm looking forward to getting started. Was there anything else, Melanie, that would be beneficial to share here?
Nope, that's a good project overview. If you
Okay.
want to go into the next slides and discuss what to expect specifically.
Okay, cool. So I think something to kind of keep in mind is, like, these water main replacement projects are trying to improve our existing infrastructure, and I know it's disruptive in the sense where it's going to potentially impact people's existing routines and, you know, how they wake up and go to work and come home. But here we are just trying to more or less kind of set the stage or set the expectation for what's happening. So initially, whenever the project starts, the utilities are going to be marked, and you're going to see a bunch of spray paint. So more than likely, people aren't graffitiing where you live or where you work or where your business is, but that's to kind of help the contractor be mindful of the existing utilities in the area. And then the contractor will pothole where the proposed alignment of the water main crosses these intersections. And then traffic control is going to be set up. So you might start seeing no parking signs or lane closed signs, things of that nature. After that, the pavement along these proposed alignments, it'll be saw cut, and then the roadway will be excavated to install the new water main. Then that water main will be backfilled, and in that time, in that time, there's going to be more than likely 3 planned outages, where that's when we're going to give you guys 48 hours notice of those planned outages. The first one is to connect the existing main to the new main in order to fill it up. And then the second connection is from I guess would just be the other end of that pipe. So it'd be from the new main to the existing main. So think of tying in point A, fill it up with water, tie in point B to tie it all together. And then there'll more than likely be a third outage where your water service is going to be connected from the existing main to the new water main. So those are the 3 planned outages. But every now and then there might be an unplanned outage due to a water main break, or some other unforeseen reason. But typically a planned outage should last around 4 hours. Like I said, unless something catastrophic or unforeseen happens. But at the end of the day, the goal is to disrupt your lives and businesses the least amount as possible. So, again, 3 planned outages. You'll be notified 48 hours in advance, and those outages should last about 4 hours. And we're gonna try to restore the service as quickly as possible. And also just keep in mind, there's the intention is to not leave anybody without water overnight. So hopefully things will kind of these outages will be planned around normal work hours. But if, say, something happens to where there's a large water main break, the crews will work until the service is restored. So I just wanted to take a moment to point that out. And so as far as these outages go, that is in order to fill that new main with water. But before that new main gets put into service, that main is pressure tested and it's chlorinated to disinfect that new water main to make sure it's clean and safe to drink. So that's this step here. We test and disinfect it. And so in this time, you might see little activity where it's almost like we came in, tore up the street, and just left. But there's usually these downtimes while we're waiting for samples and while we're flushing that new water main. So then this is kind of something important to point out, where once that new water main gets approved for service, there's technically 2 water mains that are in the ground that have water in them, but your house is on or your house or business is on the old water main. So what we need to do is transfer your service from the old water main to the new main. And if you have a meter inside, we will relocate that to outside. But on this project, there's probably only about like 5 small diameter services where we're even going to be messing with any meter relocations. So that's something to point out there. And then the next bullet point here we have is construct permanent connection and abandon the old main. So after we make all the connections, we'll make that final tie-in, and then we will abandon that old water main in the ground. And then afterwards, restoration will take place. So that's repaving the street, replacing the sidewalk if that's tore up, if there's any lawns or landscaping needed, that'll all get restored after the services are transferred on this project. So here's what to expect. So this is kind of in line with what we just talked about. There's gonna be large equipment. So typically there's some saw cutting that happens. There's kind of some slurry and mud. It's kind of a mess, but that will get cleaned up and minimized. Backfilling and excavating. There's some dust that happens there. Sometimes the street gets dusty. So all those impacts will be minimized to the best of our abilities during construction. And then it says here water service will be interrupted for short periods of time. So that's what I was saying with whenever there's any planned outages, those planned outages will be you'll be notified 48 hours in advance with door hangers. And then any sort of driveways or curbs or pavement or anything like that will be restored to the public works standard. So we won't just leave it tore up. And then I don't know if this really applies to us here, but any sort of lawns will be seeded or sodded as needed, and as long as it's not snowing or 100 degrees outside. I think this is the big one here. Ordinary travel routes may be temporarily restricted. I know that's really frustrating, and it's just kind of the nature of the beast. But again, with the traffic control, you should be made well aware of the restricted access prior to you needing to make your right turn or your left turn. So just keep that in mind, where normal travel routes may be impacted there by this project. And then
and Davis, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do have a question
Sure.
from Ben Knoll.
Yeah.
Ben, if you want to ask your question, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So with I know this came a little bit bullet point late, but the affected curbs, driveways, and other pavement that were restored per KCMO Public Works Department standards, and that is probably with regard to what you guys disrupt. I'm not too sure what you guys are going to disrupt along 7th Street between May or Broadway and Central, basically. But I know that we've had some issues over the past, and with the restoration of broken pipes on that line,
Mhm.
our curb height is now like maybe 1.5 inches tall, which
Oh,
leads to some issues with water management for stormwater management as well.
right.
Is that something that you guys are going to address at this time or this state? Or I know we've kind of put it into like 311 or, some stuff like that over the past couple of years, but we like along 7th Street, the curb heights on the north side of the street are maybe just like a little speed bump.
Right. There's not even a
So
curve. Yeah.
is that fall within, depending on what you guys disrupt, would that curb height fall underneath the Public Works Department standards for what that curb height should be at the end of the day?
I
That's
think,
basically my question.
yeah, which is it's a great question because I mean you bring up I don't know, I think you bring up like probably what most people notice about any sort of underground infrastructure project is the restoration where, you know, the water is just supposed to come out of the sink, but where you drive, that shouldn't be tearing up your car either. So I think with your specific question, the typical caveat is that the contractor will replace the driveways and roadways to their previous state. So if that curb is only 1 inch, I don't imagine the contractor is going to mill 6 inches down because they're basically going to put it back the way that they found it, and how they put it back is going to be to public works standards. And I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear because that's not necessarily the best for that segment of roadway. But we with these water main replacement projects, we're kind of walking this line of using KC Water customer funds and to install this new infrastructure, but we're working within Public Works roads, which is a separate department with a separate checkbook and wallet. So I think it's a good question. I will bring it up to a couple people above me to see if there's maybe anything we can come up with. But as far as how the contract's written, the contractor is just going to restore the street how it was to the current or the KCMO Public Works standards that were part of their contract.
All right, thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, and Ben, I will, I'll put up my contact information at the end of the meeting. So just feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions or any way I can help you out. Maybe make some more progress with the issue that you're having. All right, let's see here. So again, the travel routes that's probably one of the biggest things next to an unplanned outage that's just going to be really frustrating. But like I said, we're going to try to minimize that as much as possible with detour signs and just signage to where you're going to be able to plan around it. And then here it says reduce the chance of water main break in the future. So I guess that's more so just saying that as this infrastructure ages, it gets, especially with cast iron pipe, it gets more and more brittle. And so any sort of change in forces. So like sometimes during the summer, we'll see a lot of main breaks, and that's kind of a combination between usage, but also the ground throughout the season kind of changes how it behaves. And so with this ductile iron pipe, it's stronger, but it's also more ductile, so it's more flexible. And we're really hoping that by following this water main replacement program and trying to shoot for that 28 miles a year, that by the end of that ductile iron pipe's expected lifespan, we will be on our way to replace it again. So it typically lasts 100 years. So hopefully within, this water main replacement project will last 100 years, and we won't have to bug you for another 100 years after we tear up your street. And then fire protection, I feel like a nerd for kind of getting excited about this sort of stuff, but the part of the design for these water main replacement projects is to make sure that we have adequate fire protection as far as hydrant spacings within a roadway, but then also to as Melanie was mentioning, we use the hydraulic model to make sure that we have adequate fire protection for or not adequate fire protection, adequate flow for these fire hydrants and for the fire protection systems within buildings. So that's something that I think is awesome, and I look forward to adding that value to these segments with this water main replacement project. These ones are kind of fun. I think visuals are way cooler than a bunch of words on a slide. So right here, this is basically trying to show you the customer responsibility versus Kansas City's or KC Water's responsibility as far as the maintaining infrastructure and who would replace what or who would be responsible for replacing what if, say, something got damaged. So this specific slide is more so indicating how the meter relocation works. So, again, there's probably only 5 meters that we're even going to be potentially relocating or installing new ones for. But if, say, pretend this is your house here, if you had an inside meter, that meter would be moved outside. And the main reason for that is just sometimes if say this breaks, or if, say, there's a wireless transmitter on there, in order to read your usage, sometimes this is less ideal than having it out in the out in your yard, basically out in this kind of near the sidewalk. So that this is just kind of illustrating that if you had inside meter, we'd move it out. And then this is also kind of illustrating the curb stop, which is just basically a small little valve where heaven forbid someone didn't pay their bill, that would be a way to shut off the water running to your home. And so as you can see this line here, this is saying that up into this curb stop, it is the it's KC Water's responsibility from the curb stop to the water main, and then anything from the curb stop to your house is the customer's responsibility. So that's kind of what that's trying to allude to. And then this next slide looks really similar. It's the main difference is that there's a sewer main here that's been added to also kind of show you here's the customer responsibility for the sewer, and then again here's the customer responsibility for the water. I think again it's probably not going to impact us a whole lot, but these are just kind of some nice little graphics. My only complaint is that the sun should have sunglasses, but call me old school. That's really all I have. I sure can talk a lot, but this is kind of the slide where the contractor can kind of fill everybody in on maybe where they plan to start working first, and any sort of ideas of sequencing they might have. So I'm not sure, Spencer, are you speaking, or is Morgan?
I can speak to where we're starting. This is Morgan.
Okay.
We're looking on starting on line A, which is that line that we talked about earlier along 7th Street between May and Central. And we're thinking about starting on September 13th. That's our plan right now to start excavating. Depending on our workforce allowed to us, we'll actually start at 2 locations, hopefully. And the other location we want to start at would be line F, which is along Wyandotte Street between 14th Street and Street, actually a little bit south of 14th. So, and should take us about a week or 2 to do each of those lines and then move on to the rest of them as they go. And like you stated earlier, we will have traffic control set up with pretty detailed detour signs, and there should be as little inconvenience as possible. So that's about it.
Cool. So just to reiterate, you guys are thinking about starting here at line A, which is along 7th Street here, and
Correct.
then moving to line F, or will you guys be kind of having 2 crews working
We're hoping to have
simultaneously?
2 crews and start them both on the 13th, but we don't have that.
That's
We're
fair.
not certain about that yet.
That's fair. No, I wanted to bring it up almost as just like a point to discuss where, you know, there may be multiple crews in the area. So like, I really doubt that all 10 segments are going to be, you know, worked on at once. But typically the plan is to, you know, start in one segment, try to get that as complete as possible, and then start opening up other segments. So I guess just kind of bringing it back to the whole, you know, outages, but also traffic restrictions. We're really trying to be mindful of getting in an area, getting work done, and then getting out of that area to really minimize the disruption. But yeah, cool, Spencer. I really appreciate you sharing that. I'll write that down on my end. But again, line A here on 7th Street and line F on Wyandotte, probably the 2 segments that construction is going to begin on regarding this project. And then, did someone have a question? I heard a note or a little chime. Jeff, did you see anything?
So
Yeah, there's been a
Lindsay
little
asked
back
a great-
and forth with.
Yeah, Lindsay asked a great question about prioritizing the projects, and Lindsay, if perhaps Melanie can kind of show that to you, maybe in a separate meeting or something like that, how we do that. Sounds like you have some knowledge.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here really quickly, Lindsay. So as I was mentioning in the chat, we every year we go through a pretty thorough risk assessment. That's when we look at the consequence and likelihood of failure of all of our assets, and we take out the projects that have previously been replaced as part of the program. So we do update this yearly. So we don't have an overall master plan, but yes, we'll put Davis's contact information up there. And then if you want to schedule something with Davis and myself offline, we can definitely run through kind of what we looked at. And then we can maybe get together some sort of visual and show you the projects that we've completed to date, but we won't be able to project out much further than probably the next fiscal year on projects for that.
Cool. I love it. I love a good question. So yeah, we went through the little pictures here. Spencer let us know we're looking to start on 7th Street and then on Wyandotte Street, maybe around the same time. If not, those are going to be the first two segments that Kiswick's gonna start installing the new water main on. And then here's our next slide here. Let me put my beautiful face back up. So we're anticipating to start here in September. The notice to proceed date is on September 7th, and then there'll be a bit of a delay for the contractor to receive materials and you know, again, get all those utility marks going. So it's more than likely you're not going to see any sort of water main installation happening on the 7th, but shortly thereafter. And then everyone should have gotten a postcard from KC Water with kind of a brief overview of the project. But you can always go to this link here. It's kcwater.us/projects/current projects. But even if you just go to kcwater.us, it's pretty intuitive. There's tabs up at the top, click projects, current projects. But that will have the information sheet again if, say, maybe you lost your postcard, or if you are looking for this contact information. The only change was there's a different superintendent on what than what's listed on the postcard. This is the most current information here. But typically, what you're going to do is you'll either reach out to Spencer or me, and then if say there's anything that you need to address that day, or like you're on the job site, more than likely Sean Allen or Nathan Gibson are probably going to be your best points of contact, where they're going to be most available out in the field, and then Spencer and I will probably be the most available as far as any I guess problems or questions on a grander scale. But this is more or less your project team here, and again, this information is available on that postcard and on our website, kcwater.us. So I think really just realize that we want to be available. We're going to try our best to communicate our plans for installing this water main, which means probably disrupting some things, but we're going to try our best to notify you. But if say there's any sort of problems, reach out to us. It doesn't mean we'll be able to solve it that instant, but I think it'll at least put it on our radar, and our desire is to resolve it as soon as possible. So I think that's probably it for that slide. I can bring it back up later, or I'll just leave it on my contact information. But we got the cliche question slide. Does anybody have any additional questions that they haven't asked already, or any new ones that they've thought of? It's perfectly fine if you don't.
I'm not seeing any questions, any hands being raised.
Okay. Well, again, it's kind of a lot of information, but it's really, it doesn't have to be any more complicated than KC Water's trying to replace aging infrastructure. And in doing so, there's these 10 segments that are probably going to impact your routine, but we're going to work together to try to resolve any sort of issues, and we're going to work together to minimize any sort of impacts that may occur. So what we're looking at is starting here within the next week or two. Like I said, notice to proceed is on the 7th of September, and then more than likely, at least what our plan is, barring any sort of unforeseen circumstances, is we're going to reach final completion at the beginning of March. So the window that we're looking at is from September of 2021 to March of 2022, and that's pretty much the timeline as we see it now, and that's our goal. So again, reach out here to me, Davis McDonald Macklin, and email just first name dot last name. So feel free to call me or email me if anybody has any more questions. I think I just saw one. I think I just saw a question. Jackie asks, how do you make sure you're on the list to receive the notices when the water is shut off? Is there an address of the affected properties that will be sent out? So so within the plans that were developed for this project, there's a list of all the addresses and all the services as far as those on the water main that's going to be replaced. So that information, as far as the addresses that would be impacted if there was an outage, those addresses are already listed on the plans, and so the contractor is already aware of who needs those mailers or those tags that we put on people's doors. But if you want to make sure, send me an email or call me, and I can double check that your address is on here, and if it is, then we'll know that you're on that list to receive the notices. Hopefully I answer your question. Okay, cool. I really hate to talk around the thing that you ask and not even answer it. But yeah, we're gonna do our best. But if there's ever a day where you guys think we're not, reach out to me. We'll make it happen. And I'm really excited to start this project. And I appreciate you guys for showing up to the meeting. It's been a lot of fun. Again, send me an email or call me and we'll work together as a team. And that's all I've got, Melanie. Jeff, Matt, you guys have anything?
Nope, just thanks everybody for joining us tonight. And if you have any neighbors or friends in the area that weren't able to join us, be looking for the posting of the video here in about a week or so on our website. So thanks for joining us and working with us.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.